Today on Conversations That Convert, we're going to talk about marketing pitfalls for builders in 2022. So let's get started.
Welcome to Conversations That Convert. Every week, we'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes tackling relevant lead generation, marketing, and sales topics for remodelers, home improvement companies, and home builders. Conversations That Convert is brought to you by Builder Lead Converter, your perfect sales assistant. And now, here's Rick and Diana.
Hey, welcome back to Conversations That Convert. Diana is off today, but we have a special guest we'll introduce you to you shortly. Our topic today is marketing content pitfalls for builders in 2022. And this is part of the cost of poor communication. So without further ado, let's introduce our special guest here. This is Carol Morgan from Denim Marketing. Carol, welcome to Conversations That Convert.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here with you, Rick.
Well, it's great to see you again, and I'm really excited for the expertise that you're going to share. You always have great stuff, and especially as it relates to the housing industry, which I know you are a specialist. So our topic today is marketing content pitfalls for builders in 2022. But before we jump into it, and we have some great questions and insights, why don't you give us a little bit of background on who you are, how are you where you are, and what's been your journey through life to land you here talking with me on Conversations That Convert?
So I've been doing this a long time, so it's a little bit of a long journey, but I'll try to make it short. I'm a Knoxville native. I attended school down here in Atlanta, Georgia. My senior year, I did an internship in PRs back in the dark ages when there were no real computers. I shouldn't confess that. Loved the internship in PR, so spent my first about 9 years out of college in public relations for both Zoo Atlanta and the Atlanta Botanical Gardens. So really heavy hitting, really fun PR stories. From there, I went to work for a small marketing firm that had a specialty in retail and real estate. So started working in the real estate industry and loved it. Got pregnant, had a baby, fussiest baby known to man. So decided to, just go freelance and start my own thing to keep Mr. Fussy out of daycare. Probably the best thing that, I always say that people are like, which man was the most influential in your life? I'm like, probably my son, who was just a terrible baby. But anyway, great kid. And so started my company 23 years ago.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We've been through a few different, ideations of name and, kind of brand, but it's been the same company for 23 years. So started my company as a freelancer, kind of went out on my own, got busier and busier and busier and kept hiring other freelancers to help me. And I guess sometime in the early 2000s, finally had to admit that I was a small agency and take all those freelancers and make them employees. And the rest is kind of history. It's just grown every year and it's a lot of fun. And we, grew as the market grew, as different opportunities came online in digital marketing. We started blogging in 2005, 6. I started podcasting in 2011. Have just embraced all the change out there in the market. And we're a pretty full service content shop. There's a lot of things we don't do, but if it relates to content, we probably do it.
Absolutely. And that, of course, which is our topic today, which I'm really excited about. And just full disclosure to the audience, I have had the opportunity to work with you through a mutual client. And so I really got to experience firsthand just the expertise you guys bring to the table, which is when I thought about this topic, I thought, oh, I need to go to Carol and just find out what's going on today. And of course, everyone knows in the last 2 years, our industry has been turned on its head. We went from, remember, March 2020, all of a sudden it's like everything shut down and we went to zero. We're like, how are we going to sell homes and remodeling projects? And then sort of we came back to this virtual marketplace and then demand went through the roof. And here we are 2 years later in this crazy environment of supply chain problems and labor shortages and huge demand and price volatility all over the place. So it's been, I think, and I've seen it with a lot of my clients and also prospective clients, is a lot of people said, well, I don't need to do this because people are banging down my door. I can just stop And
Right.
as we've been around long enough, like you and I have, you know that markets come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, one of the dangers is that you rely on the markets to make your
Right.
sales for you. And then when that market changes, and oftentimes they change quick, all of a sudden we're stuck. We're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to start doing things again. So let's just jump
Mm-hmm.
right into it. And you mentioned in the overview, talking about your brand story and what
Mm-hmm.
impact it does have. But could you first of all, this is define brand story and talk about specifically for home builders and remodelers, how it impacts them.
You know, brand is where everything starts. You and I talked a little bit, off air about how you can have brand defined 22 different ways, and I'm sure I'm going to add 23 to your mix. But I define it as what's unique about that company. So, what's your unique selling proposition? What
Okay.
at your core really makes you different? What are those 3 things that you want to be known for? And then taking that and flowing it through everything. It should be evident on your website. It should be evident by how you answer your phone and your email marketing. Everything you do is influenced by brand. It's not just that fantastic logo and mark you have, although those are important. I've got showing mine off here on a cup. So yes, that's important, but it's much more than just that. It's everything else that supports that, including the experience they have in your sales center with your sales team. All part of brand. It's really, if you think about it and you think about it in terms of, Target or Apple or Coca-Cola or hello, Harley Davidson, it's the feeling you get when you look at that logo and you think of your interaction with that company.
It's interesting that you mentioned those big name, those when we think of brands, what we think of Nike, Coke, you're right, of Harley Davidson. And I heard, and I think this was Seth Godin that I was reading once, and he talked about the brand of these big, huge, multinational corporations and how they spend millions and millions of dollars each year just to reinforce their brand. And for the typical small business owner, obviously we don't have advertising budgets to do that. But what he equated it to was you build a tribe.
Right.
And that tribe is roughly 1,000 people that is aware of you, that knows you. And what do you mean to those 1,000 people? Do you agree with that, I guess, analogy between a small company and a big one?
I think it's a good analogy. I would say it might not be 1,000 people for a small company. It might be 10 or 20. And to always start with your employees. And there's so much you can do, to kind of level the playing field. The digital world really did level the playing field for the little guys versus the big guys. But, just think in terms of brand. We're actually running a little branding campaign on social media right now for one of our clients. You can find them on Facebook as Ranch Cottages for Rent. And what we're just reinforcing is, low maintenance, fantastic amenities, lock and leave, all the different things that they want to be known for, related to their brand and why you should buy from them. And, it's other than creating the graphics and, our time to post it and create it, they're not spending any money on advertising. We might be boosting a post here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty much a free campaign. So,
organically. Would you define awareness and branding as roughly the same thing? Or, okay, so you agree with that? Okay.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So is that something one of the other 22 people said?
No, I was just thinking about it as you were talking about your campaign. It's like, you have to remind people, hey, this is what we have, this is what we're doing, and as I have a sales background, so I'm always looking for what's the call to action,
Right.
But I also understand that the awareness and public relations and just sort of keeping top of mind with your tribe, how important that is. And in this industry, I know you've done other industries too besides this, but in this industry, like we have this incredibly long sales cycle where somebody first starts thinking about it to the time they actually take action, and how important it is to be able to meet them early in that sales cycle and be able to become a trusted source, especially a local source, which we are all local businesses here in this industry. So when they are ready to pick up the phone or walk into the sales center, they say, hey, I know about these people. I trust them. I see the value in what they're doing. Let's see what they have to offer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, well, very, very good. Okay, so we got brand story down. So now let's get into the nitty gritty here of what's going on. So the strong market, as you talked about the last 2 years, how has it affected in your case, the quality of marketing content?
Oh, golly. It's been kind of interesting. It's run the gamut. Most of our clients have understood that they need to continue to market it. We have had
Right.
a few. We had one early on that let every single person in its marketing department go and canceled all of its marketing budgets. And, I think they've been okay because the market's crazy. But, what happens when the market's not crazy? Is anyone going to remember who they are if they're not spending any money out there? And that's the concern, and the whole, 180 is that, um, that's a brand new builder in Texas that ramped up their entire company during COVID, and, all we're doing for them when the market takes off again.
Sure. I talked to a client beginning of the year who was he said I'm a year out, and I've heard this story too. Some builders like, hey, we're doing 2023. I've heard one builder was building, they were taking orders into 2024. They were literally 2 years of backlog. But I was
Wow.
talking about one client, and he says, I'm a year out. I have a year backlog right now, and he said there's two ways I can look at this. The first way is, I'm a year out. I don't need to do anything. I'm good. And the second way is I've only got a year's worth of business, built up here in
Right.
my pipeline. And I thought that was really insightful, is that he goes, I've been around. I was around in 2008 when the market crashed. I had to learn how to market my business. And, so we've been through good markets and tough markets. But there are still people, ironically, that he is talking to that are willing to start in 2023. There are still people
Wow.
willing to wait. And he brought up an interesting point. He said, when people find out that he is a year out, it almost makes him more desirable. Because it's like
Wow.
they think like,
Yeah.
hey, you obviously are the guy to choose, because these other people are telling me they can start right away, but everyone wants to work with you. So there's something to be said for that. So it is, and I don't know how you coach your clients through that when they come to you and say, hey, Carol, do I really need to do this anymore? Because we're so busy, we're so backlogged. Would you answer that question?
You want to keep that. You don't want to keep a backlog. Obviously, all these builders would like to work through their backlog, and it's scary for other pricing concerns and all sorts
Mm-hmm.
of other issues. But most of our clients get it. They knew they needed to stay in front of the potential buyers. They know that even though they have these VIP lists that may have 100 or 200 people waiting for a certain community, that most of those people are probably on 4 or 5 other builders VIP lists too. Because
Very,
that
very
doesn't
true.
mean that they've handed anyone a check, right?
Very
And
true.
most of our builder clients aren't taking checks right now. They're not doing pre-sales. They don't want to be in that scary place where they're not sure what everything's going to cost in
Mm-hmm.
pricing a home. So, if you've gone to kind of an inventory only sales model, you've got to
Yep.
keep marketing,
Yep.
because
Absolutely.
even if you have a great VIP list, they might not be ready to buy, or they might have already bought, or they might have given up. They might be renting.
So that's I guess a follow-up question to that is that most of your clients have shifted doing spec only and gotten away from pre-sales just because of the
Correct.
volatility and with schedules and supply
Yeah,
and all that.
and the few we have that are still doing pre-sales have gotten really savvy. They've added lumber clauses.
Yep.
They've added allowances for all sorts of things because they didn't have allowances before, and they're trying to be really careful and really savvy. Because we have one builder that's, I call them semi-custom, that they really they stood by their product. They delivered all those homes even as
Mm-hmm.
prices went up, but I think they took money to the closing table on a few of
Oh
them. So
yeah.
they're trying
I
to be super cautious now.
The market flipped, right? The spec
Yeah.
homes became the most profitable
Yep.
product, and the pre-solds became the worst because of the
Correct.
clauses. Yeah, and of course it
Mhm.
took you a year to build a spec home, and now your home is worth that much more, 20% more a year later
Right.
in a lot of markets.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, the quality of marketing content, you just said your best clients have continued to do it, to be
Right.
consistent. Um, let's talk a little bit more about the ones that maybe the pitfalls.
There's
I mean, obviously, the title of our program today is Content Pitfalls for Builders in 2022. But what are you
right.
seeing out there with content pitfalls?
I mean, it's just gotten sloppy. So, you might go to a builder's Facebook page and it's got very scattered posts, and the posts that are there have no real call to action. Seeing a lot of that. Going to blogs that haven't been posted on in 2 or 3 years, which of course during the Great Recession pretty much meant you were out of business. Now, hopefully home buyers know that it means you're really busy, but they might not. So that's a pitfall, just not keeping that content flowing, because when you start neglecting your blog and you start neglecting your content, really what you're doing is neglecting your SEO program. And you're going to need that organic search when the market starts to turn. So if you've neglected that for months and months and months and months, you're going to end up spending an awful lot of money getting that back, because you're going to have to hire an SEO team to fix it. You're not going to be able to do it organically like you could do with your blog and some of the other things. So to me, it's a spiral effect, stopping the marketing stops a whole lot of things, including those leads coming in ultimately. And, great, maybe you've got enough leads now, but what happens in 2023 and 2024 and 2025 when the markets get a lot tighter? Because, hey, folks, we're running out of lots to build on. So,
yeah. I'm going to go back to your brand again, talking about that brand story. Is and you mentioned it already, but I just want to reinforce your point. It is so imperative of you're able to use your organic social media, your blog, your Facebook, to continue to reinforce your brand story. And the one thing I look at this industry, and I look at what is really a miss, where I see so many builders missing, and it's case studies.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, seriously, you're in this business. Is there an industry that is more visually impacted than our industry? I don't know that there is, because everything is all about that beautiful exterior facade, or that kitchen, or that great room, or that outdoor living space. All we produce is visuals. But what about the people behind them? What about the clients that you're serving and telling their story? And of course, that can turn right into your brand story, as well as organically, when people go and they follow you on social media, what are they looking for? They're looking to see, do you serve people that are in the same situation as me?
Right.
In this community, that want to build this type of home or do this type of remodeling project. I don't get it, Carol. I'm like dumbfounded. And I don't know if it's just because it's too much work or why it doesn't happen more, but these case studies are everywhere, but nobody does them.
Well, it's interesting. I think it's true for a lot of companies. If you're a smaller builder, maybe you don't have in-house marketing, or if you have in-house marketing, you probably have one person who is slammed, and there's not a process in place to get those testimonials or get those case studies. Sometimes there's not even a process in place to get good video or get finished photos of homes or finished photos of developments. We're working with a developer that we scored a big placement for in a local paper, and the paper was asking for, completed developed lots with homes on them, even though, the developer doesn't build the homes, and they don't have really anything because they've been so busy developing, they haven't really thought to document it.
Sure.
So,
it's like you get so caught up of working in the business and you forget to work on the business.
On the business, correct.
Which is where we are focusing is, okay, how do we make this better? But I think you're so right too. It's so short-sighted to say I'm busy now. But again, going back to that sales cycle, I see it all the time. People take months, if not years, of where they first come into a funnel before they actually do anything.
Absolutely.
So it's like right now, our content stopped a year ago, so we haven't done a blog post, we haven't done a Facebook post, our Instagram is essentially done. And then we go a year from now, we realize, okay, now we need to start doing this again. We got a 2-year gap.
Right.
How many of those people are going like, oh, what happened to these guys? And
what happened for 2 years? Well, and one of the things I am seeing some of the custom builders do that makes me applaud, because yay, I think they're starting to get it, is as they're completing some of these homes, they're starting to get Matterport tours of them.
Oh, smart.
So I think there's things you could be doing right now. So even if you've stopped the marketing machine and you shouldn't have, and you need to gear it back up, it's a great time to go through, and while you've been, feasting, take pictures of everything that you've created. Take pictures of your work. Get streetscapes, get interiors, get exteriors, get drone footage, get, your Matterports ready. Spend some of that money that you haven't spent for the last couple of years getting ready to market again. Because, you can go through and backfill some of that on blogs, go
Very
back
true.
and do a blog every other month or something, just so it doesn't look like you completely fell off the cliff and didn't work for 3 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, right. So, and for anyone that doesn't know what a Matterport tour is, can you give us just a quick definition?
So a Matterport tour, Matterport's actually pretty cool. So what they do is they come in with this big giant kind of 3D camera and take images from every single aspect of the home and then put it together in what we call a dollhouse tour. So somebody can click dots and walk through the whole home step by step by step and see every room from every angle. It's really amazing. And they're not that expensive. There's
No.
lots of people who offer them now. And, to me, having that or having video, especially if you're a custom builder, and what I hear a lot is, oh, well, but it was a custom home for that family. I'll draw something different for the next one. Well, it doesn't matter. It still shows the quality of your work, which is ultimately, if I'm going to buy a custom home from you, I want to know the quality of your work.
Yeah. And most custom builders, it seems like they kind of fit into a certain architectural style or motif that they're sort of known for. And those Matterports, that's a great way to showcase it.
Yeah.
So very, very, very true. And they're of course, custom builders. There is no model. Right. I don't have a model home. So, okay, guess what? I've got these virtual models now that live.
And I'll tell you, they're the ones that I think have done really well throughout this. Is if they're on a true cost plus model, then, it's cost plus their fee, or cost plus a percentage and their fee. So they haven't gotten hit at all during this crazy downturn. So,
and they've been smart.
Yeah, and we know the cost of materials has gone up. So their percentage has gone up of what they're making. So, a great time for them to reinvest some of that money.
Yeah, so let's talk about high quality. So the effects of high quality content in marketing today. What is that doing for your clients or others you're seeing in the industry?
Yeah, so we have 2 or 3 new clients who have just seen their traffic, their leads, their organic search, everything just go off the charts since starting a regular stream of content. And I think that's the biggest thing that people see is you start to see those, organic numbers and we usually include paid with Facebook especially as well. But you start to see those numbers really go up in terms of engagement and following on the actual sites. And then you start seeing that traffic come through to your website. And you can see, with a strong blogging program, you start to see your organic search and your blog post, the numbers of people coming to see those blogs really start to increase. So I think those are the biggest things you can see and start to see typically within that first 90 days. Whether you're starting a new program or whether you're making a major change, if you've got that right, you're going to be getting people who come and spend, 2 to 4 minutes. I like to see at least a minute and a half if they're coming to a blog, because that way, they've at least read part of it before they've either clicked back or clicked on through to your website. But those are the kind of results we see. If somebody's really not been doing anything for a while, it's a super quick way to boost that organic SEO.
And quality of content, since we're on that topic. So when you're doing these posts, these organic posts for blogging and Facebook, Instagram perhaps, what are you seeing? Like what would you say is really high quality content, the one that gets the most views or the most likes?
Well, that's going to vary. So when you're thinking blogging, it's probably going to be new models, new communities, a completed project, or the kinds of things that do well in organic search and the kinds of things people will spend time on your website and on your blog reading. As far as social media, they like to see pictures of people. Obviously they like completed homes, interiors and exteriors, but if you can focus on your team, your sales team, your happy home buyers, with those little for sale signs, and there's a reason everybody posts that. And it's because they get about 1,000 times the engagement of anything else. So, finding ways to get people to engage and get them to stop and look at your content. Because even if, let's just say you've got your typical brand message going out, you've got your sales message going out. So maybe every 4th or 5th post, if you have a person in there, they're going to click on that post. They're going to go to your page. They're going to scroll back and look at your other stuff too.
So if to summarize, the strategy being for blogging is really you're trying to index that blog for your local search.
Yep.
So that's your locations, your floor plans, your designs, your project types, that sort of thing. And then for social media, that human interest side of things really kind of
Absolutely.
gets things moving,
Yeah,
or it
and
gets more attention.
you can certainly do human interest on your blog as well, and we do a lot of that too. Because especially, you're going to take that blog post and you're going to post it on Facebook, you're going to post it on Instagram, you're going to post it where people click back through to it. So, you can use your blog to do the heavy lifting for a lot of your social, as well as your newsletter, if you've planned your stories correctly. So, yeah.
Yeah, you could just certainly do a blog index for your newsletter. Yeah, repurposing content is huge.
Yep.
And that's the neat thing about it. What you do too is that you can produce something and then you can use it 3 or 4
Multiple
different
ways.
ways, so
Yep.
you're not recreating the wheel all the time. I and you probably get this a lot too, but I think a lot of clients or a lot of builders, they sort of don't know what to post as far as content, so then they just do nothing. And I know that's really the benefit of you guys, is that you are the creative aspect of it, and you can come in and you can do multiple different things as far as content and sort of help keep that flow going.
And you're absolutely right. A lot of times, somebody will come to me, oh, we need this, but we don't really have any stories to tell. And it's because, again, it's their business, and what other people are going to think is fascinating and interesting is just what they do every day, and they don't find it fascinating and interesting anymore. But, there's a million different stories to tell, and telling them well, and, writing well, and painting that picture. And, that's what we do. We write original quality content. My goal is to write a piece of content that can only be on that one and only one blog. It's written for that builder. You can't copy and paste it and post it to 50 other sites. It wouldn't make sense. And unfortunately, when you were talking about quality content, I kind of chuckled because, I think of these content farms that are, writing content that, I call it, and no offense to Better Homes and Gardens, but kind of that, featurey fluff that you could post anywhere and it would be fine. That's not what you want on your site. That's not why people come to learn about you. They want to know, why should I buy from you? Not find just, fun.
That
fluffy
generic content that you could post to any builder's site out there. All right, so let's talk about, I'm a home builder. I haven't posted for a year. Okay, now I'm noticing maybe my market's slowing a little bit, and I'm not in the full-blown panic mode yet, but I'm thinking, oh, I need to start doing something. So if I am bleeding right now, because I haven't posted anything, where do I start?
Golly. I would start with a blog strategy, just because it's a good way to get the traffic back to your website. The other thing you could start with, and I guess there's no right or wrong really answer to this question. There's a lot of ways you could start. But if you have people on a VIP interest list who haven't bought, you can always take those folks and retarget them on Facebook. Through Facebook advertising. You can do a lot with retargeting with the list you already have. So if you've already, got a newsletter out there, and that you've got this group of people who have clicked on that newsletter but not bought, and the people who visited your website, you can create lookalike audiences. But I would look at what you already have that you can remarket to really jumpstart that pipeline immediately. If you're kind of a little bit of a bigger builder and you've neglected realtors, maybe start with a realtor focus.
Sure.
Maybe a realtor of the month, or maybe some function for realtors. So,
that's a good point too. And it's actually a program I have got coming up, which is, rethinking your realtor strategy. Because I know a lot of builders, they got to the point, I've never seen this before in this marketplace. So let me preface it with this. I've never seen a marketplace where the realtors needed builders more than the builders needed realtors.
Right.
Because there was no inventory, right? So what do the realtors do? Well, we'll go to the builders. Can we get some inventory there? And so I know a lot of those relationships have gone dormant, if not were cut off altogether. But what, as it relates to realtors right now, are you doing anything differently than the tried and true stuff as far as these relationships, or are you just kind of sticking with
going back to the basics? The thing we saw is that, over the last 3 years, again, just to your point, builders didn't really need realtors. Realtors needed builders. So a lot of builders stopped all their realtor relations and their realtor programs. And just, again, that was part of what, got cut and went to the wayside because they didn't have time for it, or didn't need it, or just refocused. And some of them even cut realtors' commissions. So, starting to reinstate some of that and treat them like the team players that they are. And, they're a big part of what we all do in home building. So,
and one of the question on realtors, I'm not sure what you've seen, is that I saw over the years it was getting more and more difficult to actually get realtors to an event. Like if you wanted to showcase a community or a new model home, that sort of thing. And so there was lots of different things I know that were done online. Like I know, I think maybe you told me this. Realtors respond really well to Facebook because that's where they're trying to get a lot of their business, on Facebook. But as far as those realtor things that you see that are, quite effective. So if I'm a builder, I'm like, I haven't done anything. I want to like re-engage realtors right now. Would you suggest that I go target them digitally, or try to do something on site, or something
I think
different?
maybe a combination of both. One of the things on site that has worked really, really well in multiple markets is hosting CE classes, because they always need that CE credit. So, have a little lunch, invite them for a CE class, make sure they get their credit, get them to tour the community while they're there, host it in a model or host it in your sales center. That has worked really well, and we're starting to see that gear back up a lot in the Southeast. So
that's a great point. I used to do that when I would license to teach CE, and I would go in and do it at my clients' locations. Yeah, very, very good. Okay, so last question here. This has been really helpful. Final thoughts, best practices for content marketing today. So I guess let's give us the must-dos.
Must-do. Well, I would start by refocusing and going back to the basics, making sure that, you're updating your blog and updating your website, and that you're gathering all the imagery that you can use moving forward. So, blogging, social media. I guess probably the most overlooked thing that we do for almost all of our clients, and we don't seem to find very many other people doing it, is public relations. So writing a press release, sending it to the media, finding the right angle, getting them to cover that, and, run the photo, run the story. It's great third-party endorsement. And that's probably the most overlooked thing I see, and that's nationwide.
Yeah. The thing is today, back when I graduated college many moons ago, but I had a emphasis in PR, public relations, and of course back then it was all about, it was the press, it was the paper, the print. And I think today when we say public relations, we still think of that, but there's so many online mediums that you can that will backlink to you and really help you with your search and just getting more eyes on your website. And people forget about that with PR.
Oh yeah. Take your podcast, for instance. This is a great opportunity. The podcasts are good opportunities, writing bylined blogs for other people, again, just anything that you can do to get the word out there in a positive way. And as you said, if you can get a link back to your website, even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Carol, it has been absolutely so fun catching up and hearing your expertise again. I really appreciate you coming on. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
I'm pretty easy to find. So denimmarketing.com, and we are at Denim Marketing on every single social media site. Or you can email me, carol@denimmarketing.com.
Fantastic. And we'll put a link for your website right below the video here today.
Perfect.
So thank you so much for your time and your expertise. It's been just lovely catching up with you. And for everyone else that's been watching, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Conversations That Convert.